the world is very scary outside a corporation, and we have to be very honest and candid about this.
Even with your role that you have had before?
Absolutely, absolutely. Because you see, and that is the danger that I was talking about before. When you are with an organization that you love for such a long time, and the organization takes care of you, it's very scary not to have this backing when you're out there in the world. These people who are making the jump to entrepreneurship, to surround yourself with people who will support you, to surround yourself with the right networks, because people don't realize that you lose a very important network in the corporate world. They remain friends and colleagues and everything else, and I still see my colleagues, and some of them were very close, but they're not your day-to-day go-tos. I can spot the corporate people and I can spot the entrepreneurs. The corporate guys will go and sit together. They will sit at the same table for lunch, although they're out there to network, really. While the entrepreneurs will be out there, they'll present themselves, and it's not an easy transition, so you have to be very conscious.
Dr. Nihal, are you ready to unleash?
Absolutely.
100%.
100%.
Dr. Nihal, I'm actually inspired by your great story. And at the same time also, I'm intrigued. Executive role, bright future, inspiration, influence. And with all of these temptations, you left all of this and took your decision to pursue your entrepreneurship and open Acceleris. I'm just intrigued and inspired to know the reason behind doing this.
Thank you for your kindness to start with. It wasn't an easy decision, for sure. However, I think after such a long time within one organization, no matter how much you love the organization, so I stayed with Unilever almost 22 years. Enjoyed every minute of it, to be honest. I learned a lot. I played many roles. I was responsible for many different geographies, many different categories. But after that much time, you ask yourself, am I still growing at the pace that I want to grow? And I don't mean from a career perspective. I was very fortunate that I've grown. I was the first woman from name to actually be appointed as Vice President Marketing. I've managed some wonderful geographies, some wonderful brands. But I mean personally as well. So that's the first question I think you need to ask yourself is, am I still growing at the pace that I can grow? The second question, I think, when you work in such a high intensity corporate role, you also ask yourself, am I now being asked to make sacrifices that I'm not too happy to make, either on the professional level or on the personal level? Am I able to do the things that I want to do? Overall as a person. So, and very often I'm asked, oh my God, 20 plus years, how did you stay 20 plus years? So I also get the reverse question. But it was one of the most obviously difficult decisions.
And those questions were difficult as well to find an answer?
Yes, they were very difficult to find an answer. I think some answers I couldn't finally get to the bottom of until after I left and took some space. Like, for example, one of the things that I found out and that I always advise other people around is that it's very dangerous when you become, when you identify yourself completely with an organization. Mm-hmm. When the first identity that comes to your mind is that you're part of this organization, sometimes almost before, anything else. And that's very dangerous. I think this is the time where you need to evaluate your relationship with the organization. It's a good and bad thing, of course, because it means that your values are in sync. It means that you're flourishing. It means, very importantly, that it's very much your comfort zone. Mm-hmm. And then when you are in your comfort zone, we all know that this is not the best place for you to keep growing and stretching yourself.
But I believe that there is a motive behind asking those questions, right? After, let's say, many years, what were those triggers that let you ask those questions to yourself?
You're asking some very difficult questions here. Very difficult questions. Some of them I've reflected on, some of them I'm reflecting on, very candidly as you're asking them now. I think it's your degree of fulfillment, really, and excitement to come to work in the morning, and willingness to take on those challenges and make those sacrifices that I talked about, that you're very happy to make at certain points in your life. But then as you grow, you wonder, okay, do I really want to do this? Like, for example, constantly relocate and all the disruption that comes with that for your family, for yourself, etc. So these are some of the questions, I think, that trigger in the back of your mind.
And I believe that you saw both sides, right? Part of from corporate and part owning your company. What's the difference between working for a company and owning a company?
Very, very big difference. So to start from the very beginning, when you own your company, especially as you're starting off, really, your hands get dirty with everything. You have to be involved with everything. You have to know everything. Sometimes at the beginning, you have to do everything by yourself, as opposed to coming, especially from a big conglomerate, a big corporate giant like Unilever, where you've got an army of support around you, an army of multifunctional support, a fantastic assistant, and you don't realize until you leave how much support you were actually getting from the organization, which again is good and bad. Everything has two sides in this journey. The good is that it facilitated and liberated your time to focus on certain things. But the bad is that you are really shielded from a lot of the important decisions and a lot of the important aspects of business, which somebody else is taking care of, which is almost a black box for you. So no matter how much, I've always been a very hands-on leader. I like to get to the bottom of things. I like to work with my teams very closely. But when literally there is an army doing something, it's very difficult for you to get to the bottom of it. So when I moved on to my own business, and I thought, okay, I've got such a lengthy experience under my belt. There's not much else for me to learn. I'm going to give back to the world. And what I discovered is that there is so much for me to learn. I've really, really grown in ways that I never imagined when I left the corporate world. I've stretched myself personally, professionally. So that was for me a very big revelation.
What were those fields, or just the areas that once you left the corporate, you felt that you grow in these areas?
My professional relationships are much deeper because you're allowed to have much deeper relationships with your business partners outside of an organization. They've also become, although my leadership brand has always been very much towards authentic leadership, but there's nothing more authentic than being an entrepreneur out there and putting your services out there and seeing people's response. So that was also quite a revelation for me.
The moment that you moved out of corporate, did you have any self-doubt inside you that you wouldn't, maybe at a certain point of time, I would not be able to do that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think it's very scary. The world is very scary outside a corporation, and we have to be very honest and candid about this. Even
with your role that you have had before?
Absolutely, absolutely. Because you see, and that is the danger that I was talking about before. When you are with an organization that you love for such a long time, and the organization takes care of you, it's very scary not to have this backing when you're out there in the world. It's much more real, of course, but it is scary, and you do doubt yourself at the beginning, and it's a journey, really. I think, unfortunately for ladies, is what I found out talking to my network. It's a little bit more pronounced than for men, and this imposter syndrome is really very true. It's very real. And at the very beginning, no matter how successful you've been, you always question, oh, what am I doing? You know, is this the right thing? Am I up to the challenge? You know, and it impacts a lot of things until you find your feet, and really it's a blossoming feeling, is that, oh my God, yes, I am capable. Yes, I am validated by my clients and my peers and my colleagues, and it's a wonderful feeling.
It's normal, I would say, that to have these self-doubts, right? Once you jump into that. But how did you deal with these self-doubts at the beginning?
Yeah, very, very important question. I think a couple of things I would definitely be very grateful for is my support network. So I always advise people who are making the jump to entrepreneurship to surround yourself with people who will support you, to surround yourself with the right networks, because, you know, people don't realize that you lose a very important network in the corporate world. They remain friends and colleagues and everything else, and I still see my colleagues, and some of them were very close, but they're not your day-to-day go-to anymore. And they are in a different now, you know, state of mind. They're in the corporate world, and you have jumped into entrepreneurship. So it's very important, and there's a lot of organizations out there that provide these kinds of networking. So, for example, I'm part of the Dubai Business Women Network, where, you know, there's a lot of like-minded women that you can reach out to. There's a lot of professionals and ex-colleagues, etc. It's very important to reach out. Of course, you know, your close family and friends are extremely important, but the professional network that you lose in corporate, you need to build that outside of corporate, very importantly. And not be afraid to say, hey, come, I need to grab a cup of coffee with you. I need to vent. I need to ask you about something. Can I throw this at you? Tell me what you think. It's very important to have this humility and to also allow yourself this downtime with trusted people. Of course, you have to choose the network very carefully, because as much as they can support and bring you confidence, it can also be the opposite. And many times you will hear, you know, why? What are you doing? You know, do you really want to do that? It's difficult out there. So there will also be those voices. And you need to be very selective, of course.
Did you build this network while you were inside corporate or after jumping?
I would say both. So, of course, over the years, I have colleagues that I really cherish. And they also still come back to me very often for advice from Unilever, and many of them who've left Unilever, gone off to other corporates, gone off on their own. I often tell my friends, you know, I have like a chaise longue where people come and complain and pour their hearts out, which makes me very happy, because it's really, you know, a testament to the relationships that we've built together over the years. So absolutely, my colleagues and ex-colleagues from Unilever over the years, who've become more friends now, have remained with me across the journey. But I've had to make a very, very conscious effort to build a new network in the entrepreneurial space. And it's not easy at the beginning, because we're not conditioned in the corporate world to do that. We're not conditioned to reach out. You'll see, you know, now when I attend conferences, I can spot the corporate people and I can spot the entrepreneurs. The corporate guys will go and sit together. They will sit at the same table for lunch, although they're out there to network, really. While the entrepreneurs will be out there, they'll present themselves, and it's not an easy transition. So you have to be very conscious about making that transition, because it's very enlightening. It helps you, it gives you confidence. It's very important. So I would say both ways.
Unleash is the bridge between my purpose and my mission. And my mission is unleashing the human greatness to its utmost potential.